At the Oklahoma Sooners, I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Preston Thorne. She's Jen Jensen. And now that Shane Beamer has spoke, the coordinators have spoken, we're now going to get to dive in a little bit better on this Oklahoma football team. Because last year they went to Norman, beat them up pretty good. And we'll break that down later on in the show. But this year's Oklahoma team, Preston, I want to declare it right now. Scary.
Okay. All right. I like the word scary because they're scary for multiple reasons. So when you think about scary, what's your number one reason why you say they're scary?
They're good at doing the things you're not good at stopping.
So styles make fights type of deal?
In a way. Their defensive front is maybe the best in America right now. They may be the best as a team getting to the quarterback. You will play maybe the best pass rusher you'll see all year in a couple weeks when you go to Texas A&M and face Cassius Howell, who's got about 8 sacks already this year.
And a great name.
And an incredible name. That's a great pass rusher name. But you got one elite pass rusher you're playing this week, and our Mason Thomas, and an entire group of dudes who've been really good at getting to the quarterback all year. You just fired an offensive line coach because you gave up so many pressures against LSU. That's where it gets scary. The Oklahoma defense is good at forcing turnovers. That's top 4 in the country in almost every single major statistical category you could possibly come up with. The best part of this game is you have it at home. But, buddy, it looks pretty daunting on paper.
As you were talking about this, I did not think about this until just now. This has some remnants of the game from last year, but in reverse.
Ooh, a little bit.
Because when we started thinking, I remember distinctly looking at the game from last year and thinking, if we don't go in there and mash their faces in the dirt, then we're not very good. And I feel like that's what Oklahoma should be thinking to themselves this year, because when you combine the top 4 defensive statistics with the bottom 4 offensive statistics, which we have, that feels like there's a mismatch there.
Yeah.
And they should be walking in here with a purpose. This is exactly how I felt last year walking into Oklahoma for an early game that was over before people even got their popcorn and sat down. I hope this is not a repeat of that, but there are some very distinct similarities.
Yeah, and of course, a lot of that just comes from the line play, right? A lot of that comes from how this is going to be at the line of scrimmage. And when I watch Oklahoma, I've watched them a few times this year. I think I was cool with not watching a ton of the Illinois State game. Not going to learn much there. Kent State, not going to learn much there, especially considering Mateer didn't play in the Kent State game, and he's somehow only missed that one game after having surgery to put 3 screws in his throwing thumb, somehow, only missing one game. But watched him play Michigan, watched him play Texas, watched him play Auburn, and there's one theme in all of those games. The opposing quarterback did not have a good time. However, I will say, Arch Manning actually might have provided a blueprint on how to actually move the ball a little bit.
I like that.
They rolled him out a ton.
Hey, you know what? That's convenient.
Because guess who you have at quarterback? Somebody who rolls out really well.
Does not roll out a ton.
But does not roll out a ton. Texas did it a ton.
There seems to be a gap in that. You have somebody who does something really well but doesn't do it often. It feels like there's not a gap. There's some space for improvement. How about that?
A desire for more.
If I put my garnet goggles on, there's some space for opportunity there.
Oh, there's a ton of space for opportunity there. And Texas was really good in that quick action passing game. And you know what I found really ironic when I watched the Texas-Oklahoma game yesterday? First play of the game, tight end screen. And it picked up 11 yards.
I thought you was going to say first play of the game, under center, fumble, snap.
Now, that would be very ironic. That would be a little too on the nose.
So a tight end screen, taking advantage of their aggression, taking advantage of all the blitzing that Oklahoma does, because they are like cattle in the stand waiting to go, and they're just waiting. So you let them come upfield, and you dump it behind them. Yes, I expect to see a lot of screens draws. Well, I don't know if I expect. I am calling for a lot of screens draws and delays this game.
You're going to need it, because what's funny about the Red River game is that it is evenly split, 50-50 in terms of fans that are there. No one has like a true home field advantage. It will get loud for both teams. Mm-hmm. And when you're evaluating, like things like false starts, right? You can expect that in a hostile environment, the road team will get more of those. Like we saw on Saturday. Now, for what we saw on Saturday between South Carolina and LSU is maybe a little disproportionately so. However, there were a few times in that game Texas would have a false start and end up behind the sticks because Oklahoma would move at the last second. They would start stemming, doing all the fancy defensive line stuff. Move calls, right? Another buzzword we've been able to add into our lexicon this year. And Texas bit, and they jumped a lot. But also, Oklahoma had a lot of offsides because of how frequently they are aggressive at wanting to get to the quarterback. This Oklahoma defense is the one this year that I think as a unit is completely just frothing at the mouth to get to the quarterback. Like, they are living for that. And that's how you end up getting 10 sacks in a game like they did against Auburn.
Yeah, and there's a quandary that we have here, because on a team that is so aggressive, you usually can take advantage of their aggression by changing the snap count, going on different counts. However, we've had trouble with the snap count. And so do you...
with our own snap count.
So do you want to try and trick them or be sure in what you do? That's a tough spot, because if we just line up and go on one against Oklahoma, that is going to be a bloodbath. However, if we go on two or silent or claps or three, we haven't proven that we can do that yet.
Yeah. And you're going to have to.
You're going to have to.
That's the thing. You're going to have to. You're not going to be presented with much opportunity to not do that on Saturday. And the mastermind behind the defense. And one of the reasons why I think Oklahoma is much better this year is because Brent Venables having control of the entire defense. He said, okay, I know in college football when you're the head coach, you're kind of the CEO of everything. Forget that. I'll hire somebody who is really good as an offensive coordinator to take care of this offense. And it's been good enough this year to where he can just leave them be. And he works on that defense. He's the play caller on that defense. No one in that building has veto power over Brent Venables. The V does not stand for veto. He does what he wants. And now you've seen it pay really big dividends because they are even better than they were last season. That's what I wanted to ask Shane Beamer about in Tuesday's press conference. And this we cut 8 from yesterday, Jen. I asked Shane about Brent Venables as a defensive coach specifically and what makes his teams so hard and his defenses so hard to prepare for.
Against. They just, maybe they would say they don't. They just do so much. So much. Like, you play Missouri, okay, they're going to play, pretty much man-free coverage, and these are going to be their top pressures. But here you kind of have a good idea of the fronts they're going to be. And you can say the same thing about us. I mean, we're multiple, but we kind of do what we do defensively. LSU last week, yeah, they're going to play a lot of man-free, and then on third down, every once in a while, they're going to bring some pressure and drop into some cover two. But basically, they're going to be who they are. These guys, they are who they are, but man, it's a lot of defense. And, when you're a brilliant defensive coach like Coach Venables is, that's obviously his forte, and it's how he ended up at Clemson, and it's how he got the head coaching job at Oklahoma, because he's a great defensive coach. And I know people have said this about me as a special teams coach. Hey, you can fake a punt because, you don't have the head coach to answer to, because I am the head coach. Well, he's a defensive coordinator. If he wants to bring 8 dudes on one snap, he can bring 8 guys. And they play his imprint on them, or impact, is one, how hard they play. I mean, you watch the tape, they are getting after it, man. And from what I don't know him well, I've got a lot of respect for him, but what I know about him, that's who he is. Like, he's intense, and they get after it. And they play the play harder than the opposing offenses most of the time. Like, you'll have them protected initially, but they just continue to come, and that's impressive watching their tape. But then you add that along with really good players, 0 inside, and the other D tackles, and 32 and 97. I mean, they're really good up front, and then just the volume of defense that they do, multiple fronts, multiple coverages, multiple pressures. Got a lot of respect that they can. I'm sure they would say it's simple and we've made it look complex, which I'm sure there's a lot to that, but when you're sitting there breaking it down, it's not just one or two things that you can say, here's what they're going to do. They do a lot, and that's why they make it really, really hard on people. I mean, Texas won the game. They made it really hard on Texas, and you're going to have some ugly runs. So I got news for you. Like, we're going to have some negative yardage plays on Saturday. There's going to be a tackle for a loss in there just because of how they play defense. But you just kind of got to keep chipping away, and then hopefully you pop some in there in the run game and pass game. And that's what Texas was able to do as the game went on.
You heard him right there. Newsflash: they're going to get negative plays. That it is a foregone conclusion. Texas, who has they have an offensive line, right? It's not like terrible. It's not been anywhere near as good as it was supposed to be. And they gave up a lot of negative plays, but they did hit a couple of explosives. And you're almost going to have to live and die by some of those explosives by playing on their aggressiveness, because as you heard Shane in that clip, they are going to be very aggressive at trying to create a ton of havoc plays.
That's what they do, and it's a risk-reward type of deals. They obviously take a lot of risk on defense. Can you capitalize on it? Can you take advantage of them, catch them in a position where you make somebody miss a tackle and you break out? That's sort of the defense that you play. But to that point, early in the game, we as fans have to know that there will be some, as Shane said, there will be some TFLs. There will be some plays behind the line of scrimmage, because that's just the design of them. That's the type of defense that they run. But hopefully you stay at it and you can crack one eventually. That is a tall task, though.
It's going to be a very tall task. We'll go to AAA Heating and Air phone lines. Will is on the line. Will, good morning. Welcome to the early game.
Good morning. How y'all doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm all right. Based on how we played against LSU, and I understand how good Oklahoma's pass rush is and their defense is in total, when Shane Beamer is looking at, what kind of offensive plays we're going to be running to go against this, do you think he calls Clayton White in there to say, hey, if you were running this defense, how would somebody be able to counteract what you're trying to do? Because I don't think Mike Shula knows, man. And my next question is, if we don't put up 20, 30 points these next couple of games, I honestly don't see us beating Texas A&M, Ole Miss, Oklahoma, Alabama. I mean, I understand that Sean Elliott's taking over the offensive line, and, maybe he can make some improvements, but unless the offensive play calling makes improvements, I don't see us getting past the 50-yard line half the time, man. I don't feel like Mike Shula is utilizing the weapons that we have with this offense. You got Lenore Sellers, who's going to run, and we hardly ever make him run. Whenever he's running quarterback design plays, it's like I'm going to run to the sideline and try to get out of bounds. But when he's scrambling for his life, he's on a different level whenever he's running the ball. And, Faison's more of a running scat back, in my opinion, and Nick Harbor's a big body guy. And I just feel like that we either run the ball up the middle, or we throw it to the sideline, or we do quarterback runs in this offense. And it is just whatever we've been doing, I feel like it's time for a change. And I feel like that maybe Mike Shula needs to look at some other teams as far as how they run their offense. If you don't have an offensive line that can hold up blocks for a very long period of time, then I feel like we should try to run plays that don't take as long to develop, screen, quick
We're up
games,
against a break right now, Will, and that's a really good point. I want to put a pin in that because I want to respond to some of it, because I think you've hit on a couple of things about where the schedule is and how many points are going to be required to actually win these games, and we'll discuss that next here on the early game.
No accidents to report on your Thursday morning, and hope it stays that way throughout the morning. 77, lots of sunshine today, sunny and 75 tomorrow. Tonight, overnight low 48, so certainly going to be jacket weather tomorrow as you get up and moving. Again, tomorrow 75, mostly sunny. And for game day, looking at sunny skies and a high of 80, currently 62.
A couple things I wanted to address on Will's call, and appreciate Will calling into the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. First, he mentioned if you don't score, 20 to 30 points, you don't see him winning any of these games. I definitely agree with that for the last three, because your defense can play really well, and you'll still give up points to A&M, because that's a really good offense. You can play really well and still give up 25 plus points to Ole Miss. Again, really good offense. You can play pretty well and still give up 24 to 30 against Alabama. Again, really good passing offense. Clicking on all cylinders right now. Oklahoma will turn the ball over. So I do see a scenario where you can beat Oklahoma by scoring like 17 offensive points. Is it likely? No, but possible. Will's got a point there, because if the offense does not do things it has not done all year,
That's the point.
then you're in a lot of trouble. You're in a whole lot of trouble. But the second thing, he talked about quicker plays because the offensive line can't block long enough for longer plays to develop. Well, Texas just got done beating Oklahoma. They forced John Mateer defensively into a lot of turnovers. They scored only 23 points to win that game, and one of them was a punt return for a touchdown. But they scored enough offensive points to win, and they didn't throw the ball downfield to do it. I told you in the break what Arch Manning's ADOT, average depth of target, was during that game. We talk all year about, Lenore Sellers is usually like in the 8-9 range. Sometimes if a quarterback's got an average depth of target that's over 10, then they're throwing the ball downfield pretty consistently. Arch Manning's was 4.2. They dinked and dunked their way to first downs, even when they were behind the sticks, because they were behind the sticks frequently.
Because you will be against the Oklahoma defense.
You will be. And Texas was not very successful in a lot of their first downs. But they dinked and dunked Oklahoma, not to death, but to boredom. And that might be the pathway that you have in this game to be able to win, is that your defense forces John Mateer into making stupid throws, which sometimes you don't have to force him into doing it. Sometimes John Mateer will voluntarily do it. And you take advantage of that and then just dink and dunk and milk enough clock to where you don't give Oklahoma's offense the ball with enough time to be able to make some of the good plays that they can make.
And so that has to be a game plan going into the game, into the week, is that this is how we plan to win this game offensively. Based on our limitations, based on their strengths, there's always a path. And if you don't think there's a path, get out the game. You should not be coaching or playing.
No.
You don't go to the stadium on Saturday without a path. The path may be narrow, right? It may be rocky, it may be hilly, it may be bumpy, but there's always a path, and you have to believe that. That being said, they're going to have to do something they've never done before. Because to Will's point and to your point, the maximum points that we've scored on offense this year is
21.
21 points.
Against Kentucky, the league's worst team.
Right. This ain't Kentucky.
No, Mark Stoops ain't walking through that door.
This ain't Kentucky. So that's going to be the challenge. The other thing you brought up is that we're not going to sneak up on them on the punt return game. They've been watching film, and also they just had one returned. So some special teams coordinator out there in Norman got a fire lit up under him this week, and he was told, hey, you know what we will not let South Carolina do? We will not have a repeat of last week and or let this team do that. So
they
the
seem
return
fine.
game might not be able to count on that. We might have been able to sneak up on them if they didn't have one return last week. That's over now.
No, there's hyper cognizant
Yes.
as to what could happen in the
Yes.
punt return game. One thing I really wanted to get into this segment is John Mateer, right? Because at the beginning of the season, it was like, oh, well, Oklahoma let Jackson Arnold walk, and they bring in this highly coveted transfer portal quarterback from Washington State who threw for a ton of yards, was incredibly exciting. I want to say it now. America overrated John Mateer
Okay.
in the offseason and early on in the season.
Okay.
Because as we'll see in Old Man versus Analytics next, there is a lot of YOLO ball with him. Without getting into specifics, we thought Garrett Nussmeier liked putting the ball in harm's way. John Mateer craves danger.
Yeah, and John Mateer does it without the skill of Nussmeier, right? He
Yes.
doesn't have the arm talent. He doesn't
Nope.
have the strength. He doesn't have any of those things. But he still likes to play in some of those dangerous areas. Like I said, and like we say on the rundown, he's fun.
He is fun. He is more fun than good.
Yes,
Because he will make some plays happen. Like if a play breaks down, he will dance around and he'll scramble and he'll make some plays happen. He'll pull a rabbit out of his hat. But he loves to make you hold your breath when that ball's in the air because you don't know which team's coming down with it.
Yeah, and I remember at the beginning of the year I was saying he was a budget Johnny Manziel, and that's not even close.
No.
That's wildly disrespectful to who Johnny Football was as an athlete. He has some of the same traits, but he's not even in the same ballpark.
Because Johnny had a lot of arm talent too, and John Mateer's got some arm talent. I don't want to make it seem like he's like
fine.
talentless, but it's fine, right? It's fine. There's a lot of the stupid that has not been coached out of him.
And to be honest, I don't know if you can coach it out of him because that's one of his strengths. His strength is his stupid.
Because sometimes he will make some really good throws where he's going to try a throw that a normally risk-averse quarterback is not going to attempt.
Yeah, the quintessential. No. Good. All right. Good throw.
Okay, yeah, good throw. Yeah. You don't want to take that out of him. That's just kind of who he is, right? Like you don't go to a Gallagher performance and be mad when there's bits of watermelon in your hair when you leave the arena. That's not how you do this, right? You don't recruit John Mateer and get mad that he made a stupid pass because he will do that from time to time. And nobody likes to jump when they pass more than John Mateer. Like he is who I imagine Super Mario is if Super Mario is given a football and told to throw it downfield. Like there are plays he'll throw it and in my head I just hear yippee. So he's jumping up and he's putting that ball in the air and you don't know where it's going half the time. But it could be exciting. And that's going to be like maybe really the old, like when we say what X factors are in football games, sometimes it's not sometimes, most of the times, it's not the quarterback that you're saying is the underlying factor of this game. But if you can force him into mistakes and capitalize on the YOLO ball that's going to happen on Saturday, then you can put yourself in a position where your offense can get away with not scoring more than 21 points in this game.
John Mateer is fair food.
Oh, now we're talking.
It's fun. I don't know if it's good though. Like, is it good all the time? Probably not.
No.
But it's good sometime.
It's a really great analogy, I must say.
Yeah, he's fair food. It's like this is great for a very short time.
Not necessarily good for you long term.
Probably not.
Not good long term.
Not good long term, but you know what you're getting when you get there. Sure, I'll have the Krispy Kreme hamburger with double bacon and cheese. Cool. I can't do this every day.
No.
And sometimes it might make you sick.
It might make you sick. It might be fun while you're doing it, but it's not. You probably don't want to do that.
It's funny you say that because I noticed this last night. This is the second straight game where Oklahoma's playing at a state fair that's not theirs.
Oh, yeah, the Texas.
Because at the Red River, they play at the Texas State Fair every year.
Oh.
And on Saturday, they'll be playing at the South Carolina
fair
State
food
Fair.
material. That's how you can think about it in your mind. It's fair food. It's
Old
good.
John Fair Food Mateer. That's how you. I mean, that's pretty good. It's good, and it can also be wildly dangerous.
Yes.
Both those things can be true at the same time. We'll break this matchup down by the numbers because Old Man versus Analytics is next. I put it in commercials.
Oh, I know. But when you have this monitor, is it run, you can see everything?
Oh yeah.
You see the output? Put the YouTube comments on screen.
That way I don't have to have it up on here. It's starting to get a little colder, slowly but surely getting a little colder outside. Maybe the golf conditions might not be as good as what they were this summer when we had plenty of sunny days and warm weather. So when that starts to happen, I highly recommend hitting up my friends over at Pro Swing at either their Chapin or Forest Acres location, because they're Golf Zone simulators you can rent by the hour. And of course, memberships are available all the time, and you can always book online to be able to reserve. They also have lesson packages for beginners and scratch golfers, from kids to adults, to be able to work on that golf game. And I like telling you the free stuff you can get: a free 30-minute swing evaluation where you can get that blueprint of your swing and a couple of pointers and drills to work on. But always a great afternoon to spend a day at Pro Swing using those Golf Zone simulators. Give them a call, 803-592-3916 for more information, and book online at proswingcolumbia.com. I'll be able to see it.
You can see it on, if you have it up on there, you see it on the screen.
Oh, that's pretty damn neat.
With their picture, their name, and the message.
Okay. Ooh. I like that. That's gonna be pretty cool.
About how functional these hours.
Yes.
So that'll be cool. And you can do Twitter and everything too.
Uh-huh.
You just have to, I don't have logins for all that shit.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I have it written down somewhere.
Did you know that there are more than 300
I know it's
elections
on a specific
happening this year in South Carolina?
pad.
But
If you
most of
change
them
the
being
password.
local elections.
I'll get it
Remember,
from Terry
your
and so
vote could
forth.
shape the future of your
Terry's got to have it
Get it
somewhere.
where
by electing the leaders
do
who
it
make decisions
consistently.
that
He's
matter.
got him down somewhere.
For
Yeah,
more information, visit scvotes.gov. And
Somewhere.
remember to vote
Over the
local
rainbow.
this municipal election day on November 4th.
Sponsored by the
Blythewood Road at Winsboro Road, the only accident we have to make you aware of this morning. Lots of sunshine today. 77 will be our high. Overnight low is going to be 48. So getting up in the morning, it's going to be a little extra cool. Tomorrow's high 75, and on Saturday, sunny and 80. So some beautiful fair weather and fabulous football weather as well. 62 currently on the early game.
Time to take a different look at the Gamecocks opponent this weekend. The Oklahoma Sooners. We're going to do it by the numbers and get really nerdy with it because it's old man versus analytics. Going to throw some fancy numbers towards Preston Thorne's way, and we'll see if we can jump to any conclusions. But the first one, we know about R. Mason Thomas. Not your, not mine, R. Mason Thomas. He's great. Got 4 sacks already this year with 17 pressures by himself. But outside of him, they still have 3 additional pass rushers with at least 10 pressures on the season. This is the best and most complete defensive line unit that this Gamecock team will face all year.
That seems like it's a fact. I'm trying to go back through. The LSU uncharacteristically were not super strong up front. Kentucky and Vandy, solid. But, yeah, I think unequivocally this is probably the best line up front, which, again, probably does not bring you much comfort as a fan who's been watching our offensive line.
No. And Auburn had, coming into the year, they felt good about their offensive line. And at times they've performed well. But when they went to Norman, it was a bloodbath. Now, granted, that number of 10, which is the times Jackson Arnold was sacked, I would say about realistically, maybe half of those are on their offensive line because Jackson Arnold had a little bit of paralysis by analysis and just held on to the ball way too long against that pass rushing unit, right? Clearly, the instructions in that game should have been, hey, get the ball out, get the ball out, get the ball out. This defense is really good. They're going to be in the backfield no matter how well your offensive line plays. Get the ball out, get the ball out, get the ball out. And Jackson Arnold did not do what?
Did not get the ball out.
He did not get the ball out. No, that man hoarded that football like a greedy child not wanting to share a toy, right? Like he did not want to get rid of the ball at times, and that caused a lot of those sacks.
Again, if you're listening as a Gamecock fan, the predictions sound worse and worse because, again, you're saying they have a very strong defensive line who puts a lot of pressure on the offensive line. Oh, and also, by the way, the last time they played a quarterback who might hold on to the ball a little bit too long, they had 10 sacks. Well, guess what? We got a guy that, if there is a fatal flaw in his game, it could be that he holds on to the ball too long, whether that's by missing his initial read or trying to make something happen. Fact is, if there is a flaw, is that he holds on to the ball for too long on occasions. Not a good recipe right now.
No.
You're not providing me hope, but today's not the day for hope. Today is scouting day.
Yes, it is scouting day.
Yes.
And that's just how this football team is.
We must face reality first.
Now, with quarterback John Mateer, one of the storylines of the entire offseason in the SEC, because it's a big year for Brent Venables, and we talked a lot this summer about how Brent Venables' job security kind of hinges on the recruitment of John Mateer and having John Mateer save what Brent Venables wants as being the head coach of the Oklahoma Sooners, right? And there's been some good. Clearly, after the first couple weeks of the season, he was considered an early Heisman candidate. And the story going into the Texas game was whether or not he'd actually play because 17 days prior, he had surgery that required to put 3 screws in the thumb of his throwing hand. And he played with those screws in there. But so far this year, John Mateer, according to Pro Football Focus, has more turnover-worthy plays than big-time throws. 7-to-8 ratio. He's got 6 interceptions this year. All 6 are between the numbers. 2 of those interceptions were thrown 20-plus yards down the field. 2 of those interceptions have been thrown 10 to 19 yards down the field, and 2 of those interceptions have been thrown 0 to 9 yards down the field. John Mateer's interceptions, rated E for everyone, and he is the ultimate YOLO baller.
What's the sound he makes when he throws the ball?
Yippee! Nobody leaves their feet more when throwing a football than John Mateer. Sometimes quarterbacks will have one foot, go up as part of the natural throwing motion. This guy will jump and make these passes.
Those interceptions that are 10 to 19 and 19 and 20 plus, those are definitely the YOLO balls. The interceptions early, I think generally if you have an interception between 0 to 10, you probably got duped.
Yep.
Right? I.e. the Lenoris interception against Vandy or something like that. You just got duped. You didn't see the coverage. That can happen. When they are deep downfield, you're probably just saying, hey, let's see what you got.
Bleep it, Isaac Satania down there somewhere.
Exactly. And he's just throwing the ball up, which now, if you're listening, if you were discouraged by the last statistic, this is encouraging because our defensive secondary has been opportunistic. They do take advantage of the ball in the air, and that is something that we do very well. So that is something that we can look to take advantage of as that game goes along.
Gonna need to, because it's not if John Mateer puts the ball in harm's way. No, he will put the ball in harm's way. The man craves danger. He's like a stunt man. He is out there. He's a stunt man, fair food quarterback. He is out here for danger, and if you don't take advantage of it, then he can get away with it.
Right.
Don't let John Mateer get away with it on Saturday. Oklahoma's defense. You talk about aggressiveness. They blitzed 54% of the time versus Auburn. End up getting 10 sacks. They blitzed 50% of the time against Texas. They blitzed 65% of the time against Michigan and true freshman quarterback Bryce Underwood. They're going to be ultra aggressive when they see what South Carolina's got working with their offensive line.
Okay, this is why Lenoris is the neutralizer. Because, yes, you want to be aggressive against that offensive line, but the problem with the blitz is if you miss that tackle or if you don't get there, everybody else is in man-to-man coverage. They're not paying attention to the quarterback. There are opportunities for him to gash you, for him to make plays down on the field. So blitzing versus being conservative against a quarterback, that he's the neutralizer in that point because Bryce Underwood, arm talent, but he's not Lenoris as far as on his legs.
No.
And also Michigan, very vanilla in their play calling, which we are too. So that's something to look forward. So I think the neutralizer in that is Lenoris.
And going to have to be. And I guess one of the big ifs is, can he break out of those tackles? That's a big thing, right? Because it's one thing to break out of some tackles against some players. R. Mason Thomas is one of the most sure-handed tacklers in the SEC. If he's able to break out of those and he can extend the plays and get the ball out of his hands or find green grass ahead of him, then he should be good. But it is one thing that we heard Shane Beamer earlier in this hour.
You said they played 65% of the time?
65% of the time against Michigan.
Yeah. And I love what Shane said. Shane said that, guess what? Because Brent Venables is the defensive coordinator, he doesn't have to answer to anybody. So if I want to blitz, if I want to eat my dessert first, I will.
Yeah.
Because you can't tell me not to do it. I'm the adult here.
That's the lesson. I think the first lesson I learned when I got to move out of the house was, man, it's 7 o'clock. I haven't eaten dinner yet, but I really want a pint of ice cream. Guess who can't stop me? My mother. You can't stop me. I'm going to eat this pint of ice cream, and I'm going to do it independently of you. And that's, it's fun at first, and then, you have a stomach ache at like 9 o'clock, and then the fun stops right there.
Right, so nobody's there to stop Brent from blitzing because he tells them what to do.
Coming up next, we're going to run the ball. We're going to look at South Carolina's running game against Oklahoma and kind of figure out whether or not this Oklahoma run game is A, any good, and B, can they run the ball on South Carolina? We'll determine that next. Before we get to running the ball, we'll go to AAA Heating and Air phone lines, where Michael has been patiently waiting. Michael, good morning. Welcome to the early game.
Good morning, guys. How y'all doing?
Doing pretty good. How are you doing?
Doing good. Sorry, doing good. So this week I've kind of been looking at this Oklahoma game as probably our most important game of the year. And the reason why I say that is because if you look at the schedule we have after Oklahoma, it's just hard to find wins. Because if you lose to Oklahoma, then you have Bama next week, and then you go on the road to A&M and Ole Miss, and if you can't beat LSU on the road, then I just don't see you beating A&M and Ole Miss on the road. Not saying that their environment are as tough as LSU's, but I mean their teams by the year are definitely is better than LSU's. And then you have probably a gimme win against Coastal, but then you have Clemson at the end of the year, who you can't really say that's a W either. So if you lose to Oklahoma, you could literally finish the year 4-8, and I just don't know how we would respond to a 4-8 season where our like floor was maybe what 6-7 wins. I didn't see anybody putting a lower floor than that. So it's just real confusing. Like, how as a Gamecock fan, as Gamecock Nation, how do we respond to that? And you can't really point to any excuse. I mean, we've had injuries. Sure, everybody's had injuries. We haven't had any major injuries. So it's I don't know. And then if you on the other side of the coin, let's say the offensive line comes out, looks like a completely different line, and then we start winning games. But then there's the issue of why it doesn't seem like every year it takes to the middle of the season for us to get right, for us to make the necessary changes to start winning games. That can't continue to happen either. So I just want to get y'all thoughts and opinion on the outlook of the rest of the season. Go Gamecocks. I'll hang up and listen.
Yeah, appreciate the call, Michael. I mean, look, the slate ahead is pretty gruesome in terms of who you have, and maybe you're hoping that when it comes to A&M, that 8-4 finds them the way they often do. I kind of liken A&M and 8-4 to Michael Myers and Jamie Lee Curtis, but we'll call A&M Aggie Lee Curtis because sometimes they can't avoid the inevitable, which is Michael Myers and 8-4. You're hoping that maybe that's the kind of the trap they fall into, but I'm going to go ahead and lay this out right now. I don't think that happens this year because I think they're legit. That's on the road. Ole Miss on the road. Maybe Kalen DeBoer does the Kalen DeBoer thing and loses as a 14-point favorite on the road in a conference game, which is something that he has done on multiple occasions in the last 2 or 3 years at Washington and Alabama. So you're hoping maybe that happens, but if you end up, let's say worst case scenario, it does end up being 4-8. Yeah, things are going to get not so comfortable around here.
And it should, because that'd be a failure of a season.
That
wouldn't be further. That'd be a failure.
Yeah,
because the goal is to go further, and that would be objectively not. That being said, I do agree with Michael's premise that this is the biggest game of the year. Not because it's a nice game, not because it's the one in front of you, but because there's a potential tipping point in the fan base, in the players, and the staffs, and everybody else. We already fired a coach. Never a good sign in the middle of the season. Everybody else is on tilt. So, yes, this is a huge game. You want to go out there and win, but you definitely do not want to get your doors blown off at home and have an ugly offensive performance, which is on the table. Mm-hmm. You cannot have that happen in this game at this time.
No. And one thing that maybe can help you is running the ball a little bit. You finally were able to run the ball against a team that's really good against the run on Saturday in Baton Rouge. Can you carry that over against Oklahoma? That's going to be the big thing because, again, that interior defensive line for Oklahoma is nasty. Their linebackers are fast. They swarm to the football. Look, I don't know if you're able to do it again, but if you put up the rushing numbers you did against LSU, then you're going to be in the game, right? And the reason you were in the game against LSU is because you were able to run the ball effectively. It gave you a chance, even though you took away your own chances by penalties. Did the LSU game give you any hope that they can do that against Oklahoma?
Not necessarily, because they did break because the majority of yards, while it was a home run hit and it was good to have an explosive, I still need to see it happen on a more consistent basis. And when you have the Oklahoma defense coming in with the havoc that they cause up front, and one of our main problems being communication, consistently, that's been a consistent issue for us. You have to be able to communicate against a defense like Oklahoma because they're here, there, they're everywhere. They're blitzing, they're stemming, they're moving. It's difficult for sure. Doesn't mean there's not a path, but it's a difficult path.
And, I mean, we did say earlier that you can't keep winning games under 20 points. This is the last game up until the Coastal game where you probably can get away with it because Oklahoma does not run the ball really well. You can still win the running game battle, which is something that they value heavily in that locker room. Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 coming up next. Seth Emerson gave out grades for teams in the SEC. What did he give the Gamecocks? We'll discuss.
Hey, it's Jen. Discover the unparalleled quality and selection at Mill Street Flooring, your go-to destination for the finest luxury vinyl plank in the Midlands. The exclusive distributor of Case Luxury Flooring, offering wear levels of 12 to 28 mils for durability and style. And whether you're a contractor, a builder, you're an installer, or, doing a home improvement project, I assure you, you'll appreciate the factory direct prices and manufacturer's warranties. They have samples available in luxury vinyl plank and a wide array of patterns and colors. You're going to find the perfect flooring instantly. And you can choose from the standard or the wider planks to fit any space, any budget. No order too big or too small. Visit millstreetflooring.com. Call Joe to make an appointment at 803-424-8547. They're in Lugoff or West Columbia. Now through October 31st, get $107.50 off an order of $1,000 or more. At Mill Street Flooring, there's never a good reason to spend more than you have to. Sunset Boulevard at I-26. Also an accident, Blythewood Road at Winsboro Road. And Highway 60 at Columbiana Drive. The traffic lights are currently malfunctioning, so be careful. And remember what we learned in traffic school or in driver's ed as you're approaching that area. Again, that's Highway 60 at Columbiana Drive. Traffic lights malfunctioning. 77, lots of sunshine today. Overnight low about 48, so jacket weather in the morning. Sunny tomorrow and Saturday. 75 tomorrow, game day it will be 80. I'm telling you, it's been a great week of weather for the South Carolina State Fair as well. So get out there if you get a chance. 62 right now.
Hour number 2 of the early game starts right now. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Preston Thorne. She's Jen Jensen. And today we're getting our first look at the Oklahoma Sooners. But after 6 weeks, right, at least 6 games for most teams in the SEC, Seth Emerson decided it's time to give out some grades. And he did. On The Athletic, Seth Emerson gave out letter grades for midseason, midterms, if you will, to every SEC team. And a lot of this is based on what maybe your expectation was early in the season. That's the basis for a lot of these. So let's start where South Carolina is and see if we agree.
Oh, boy.
And it's never a good sign when you have to scroll down. They're the only team with this grade, a D- for South Carolina. And this was his rationale. He says this was not a playoff or bust year, but any team with Lenora Sellers on one side of the ball and Dylan Stewart on the other side of the ball should be better. The only power conference wins are over arguably, or not arguably, the worst teams in the ACC, Virginia Tech, and SEC, Kentucky. The Gamecocks were routed at home by Vanderbilt. They were competitive at LSU and Missouri, but only that, competitive. Shane Beamer has already made one staff change, firing his offensive line coach. He may need to make more changes. And I don't see the lie there in terms of how this has been really disappointing. Look, certain things can go wrong with your offensive line. Certain things can go wrong with certain breaks during the game. But I think what Seth ultimately hit on is the reason this team is at a D-. And I can't disagree with the grade at all, is that you have the most talented quarterback in the conference. You have somebody who is almost a verifiable top 5-10 draft pick in the NFL once he is draft eligible. Mm-hmm. A guy that everybody wanted to drag into the portal and get his services because he is maybe the most dominant player at his position. Because only one player I've seen in college football gets held every play, double-teamed every play, sometimes tripled.
Accounted for every play.
Accounted for on every single play, because if you go mano-a-mano and don't hold on Dylan Stewart, he is going to destroy your quarterback. All of that being said, you should not be 3-3 having those two players. And if you just kind of simplify a very complex game, that makes a world of sense.
Yeah, and a D, as I said, stands for disappointing, because the season is disappointing to this point for everybody involved, fans, coaches, plus staff, players, everybody. That being said, that's not the bottom.
It's
right?
not, no.
When you're swimming in the pool and you think you thought it was a 10-foot pool, but it's actually a 15-foot pool, and you go to touch and you didn't touch yet, there's still further to go. And as Michael pointed out last segment, as we talked about, the schedule is not kind, and that's why this game is so important this week, because if you go out there and you do not put up a one competitive, 2 winning performance, there's chances for the season to go from D- to F and beyond.
Because like a 4-8 and 5-7 season is disappointing for South Carolina any season, right? Any season, that is bad. But this is where we get into what I will call the Elijah Campbell as a child range, where the parents aren't mad, they're disappointed. Mm-hmm. And that's worse. Mm-hmm. When I get hit with that was worse. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure if Jen ever had to break out the I'm not mad, I'm disappointed to her kids, it probably hit worse. Mm-hmm. But you're disappointed because of just exactly what we thought this team could be, because we've seen it, right? Yes, you lost on the defensive a lot on the defensive side of the ball, but we learned pretty early the defensive side of the ball, while not last year, still good enough to win you games. And the fact that your offense couldn't hold up the end of the bargain makes this even worse. and
Right.
it kind of reflects even
And
more
the
poorly.
disappointment would be because we knew going into this season we had these very small window of opportunity here. And as Michael said, going back to Michael's call, let's say the offensive line does make a 360 and all of a sudden they're blocking and they're not jumping off sides and they're road grading folks.
Extreme makeover offensive line edition.
Let's say if it happens, then you want to think, well, why did it take this long for this to change to be made? Right? And so you're starting to say, like, man, we went into the season with such a small window of opportunity, shaky at OC, shaky at O-line, and we were just going on, man, I hope it works. I hope it works. That's not a strategy when the stakes are this high, especially for this program. I've been a fan as long as most of you all out there listening have been fans. You know these types of things don't come around very often, and I'm not sure if we treated it with the urgency that it needed to be.
Yeah, and it certainly it looks that way so far this season. That's how you get to D-. Well, if you want to play the At Least We Ain't game, there are three teams.
One of my favorites.
It's the Preston Thorne special.
One of my favorites.
There are at least three teams that got worse grades than South Carolina. At F+, does the plus at the F really make you feel any better?
Still a failure.
No, it's still a failure. Florida and Arkansas. Now, one of those teams fired their coach early in the season,
Which means the vibes are higher.
which means their vibes are a little higher. Maybe that's where the plus comes in. And now Bobby Petrino almost pulling off a miraculous comeback against Tennessee. That game, you want to talk about the importance of every quarter that's not the fourth? Arkansas lost that game in the third quarter. They dug too deep a hole to where they could do something crazy at the end of the game. And at no point did any Tennessee fan feel weird about that game in the fourth quarter, because when you're up like 3 or 4 scores, yeah, you can maybe gag away like 14 points and vomit, the ball away a couple times. Unless it's a total meltdown, you're not losing that game. So while it was 34-31, at one point it was a lot worse. But Arkansas has wasted a really good Taylor Green season. Taylor Green, fellow YOLO baller in the YOLO Ball Club with John Mateer. But it is worth noting, he's getting close to 2,000 passing yards. He's already rushed for 500. There's a good chance he throws for 25 to 300 or 2,500 to 3,000 yards this year, and rushes for 1,000, and the team goes 4-8.
Jeez.
That would be, if you're an Arkansas fan, you're sick to your stomach. And then Florida, of course, the Texas win salvaged a little bit of something, but Billy Napier is coaching on borrowed time.
Yeah, he's a lame duck coach, and that's ridiculous. I mean, if you want to fire him, they should have done it already.
Just go ahead and do
What
it.
are we waiting for? They're waiting for an excuse. Seems like that's what Penn State, if you do the reading and some of the reporting that's been done on Penn State, they were just waiting, and James gave it to him.
He did.
But
He
they
served
were
it up.
just waiting for an excuse. They were just giving him enough chance to do it, and they did it. And that seems like what they're doing with Florida. They're waiting for them to lose a game to a team that they're not supposed to lose to or get blown out, and then they're going to fire him. So it feels like that's going to happen this year. So why not just do it?
And then the last F, just F, no plus, Kentucky. and this is even with the caveat of, yes, expectations were low, and the Wildcats have met them.
Oof, brutal.
I mean, cooked. I think that's you are who we thought you were.
You are who you thought you were. Cooked. Get on the grill. But also, Mark Stoops, get ready to go to the bank, sir.
You think Kentucky's willing to pay that buyout?
What are we gonna do? We're gonna run this back next year? You cannot. As the worse it gets, and unless what's my guy that's the basketball coach now?
Mark Pope?
Unless Mark Pope comes through with the championship. If he comes through with the championship, then we can just be like, you know what? Yeah, whatever, Mark.
Preseason top 10.
Who cares?
We have another Mark in town. That's a little
If Kentucky basketball does well, they might be willing to bring Mark Stoops back.
Now, the team with the best grade in this, there's only one team that's gotten the A+ from Professor Seth Emerson. And I agree, Texas A&M. And what the point here, too, at the beginning is the Aggies may be the most aesthetically pleasing team in the SEC. And then he goes on to say that how good they are at pretty much everything, right? The aesthetics are really good. They run the ball better than anybody else as a team in the SEC. Ahmad Hardy's the best running back in the SEC, but A&M as a unit, because they got like 3 dudes who are really good running backs on that team. And Le'Veon Moss, I would say, is a top 3 running back in this league right now. A great offensive line that's great in pass blocking and run blocking. They've got 2 wide receivers that can go for over 1,000 yards this year in Mario Craver and KC Concepcion. Concepcion was the more highly touted transfer portal guy. Craver was kind of like the under the radar guy from Mississippi State. The Athletic has him as a first half All-American this year. That's how good Mario Craver has been. And Marcel Reed's taken a step. He was solid last year. He is now good. Not great, he's good. And then on the defensive side of the ball, they're nasty at all three levels. They have an elite cornerback in Will Lee. They have an elite linebacker in Torian York, who may be the rangiest linebacker in college football. And Cassius Howell has 8 sacks on the edge this year, including the rare back-to-back-to-back sack
Oh, what's it on?
against Utah State.
That's cool.
3 straight.
That being said, Mike Elko's name's buzzing on the hot board.
If you're Mike Elko, do you leave? Because A&M will they if you want an extension, you want an irresponsible extension. A&M's
Now's
the
the
one school
time.
maybe the most likely to give you an irresponsible extension.
His name's buzzing on the hot board. The hot board, I think, at the top of the list right now. So maybe things get weird with that. I don't know. Everything seems to be on track for right now, though.
You know what's really fascinating about Texas? There's a lot of things that's fascinating with Texas A&M, but maybe the most fascinating is like their history of just finding ways to become 8-4. How big of a collapse it would be to be 8-4 this year. They're 6-0 right now, meaning they have to go 2-4 down the stretch to reach their destiny. Right? The thing that finds them. They're at LSU or at Arkansas this week, at LSU, at Missouri. They have South Carolina. They have Samford. They're at Texas. Meaning going 8-4 would require winning only 2 of those games. Not saying the hardest part of their schedule is behind them, because on the road to LSU and Missouri will be pretty tough. They'll be favored to beat South Carolina at home. They'll beat Samford with their 4-stringers. And then they have to go at Texas, which I think will be really tough.
Sanford, not Stanford.
Samford. Yes.
Samford.
The Fighting Cortland Finnegans. Yes, of Samford.
Cortland Finnegan didn't fight too much.
Yeah, not the most memorable. Yeah, that's not a player who the most memorable play in his career was getting his helmet ripped off and getting these hands thrown.
Like Andre Johnson, of all people, the most pleasant of personalities. Nobody has anything to say about Andre except he's a great dude. And Cortland, you got on his nerves.
As somebody who watched a lot of those Titans teams, just because they were the local team, Andre Johnson wasn't the first player who wanted to take his helmet off and punch him in the face.
Got you.
Right? Also, in just the pantheon of like football fights, how many times do we see somebody punch another grown man with a helmet on? Always a dumb mistake. Mm-hmm. Andre Johnson was mad enough to take the time after the play to make sure that helmet was off so he could be punched in the face. That's how you know there was a lot of malice there. But A&M, the only A+ team in terms of who has A's, Ole Miss and Tennessee, which makes a lot of sense, especially Ole Miss. Now, I think it's worth noting that they did escape Washington State and they escaped Arkansas. Ole Miss maybe living and dying by some one-score games, and it's going to get a whole lot harder because they still got to play Alabama. I think the Egg Bowl will be interesting this year. And with Tennessee, we'll find out how good they really are on the road at Alabama, considering they have not won at Alabama in a long, long time. A-minuses, Vanderbilt and Mississippi State. Again, the A- comes from what we thought Mississippi State would be. Many, like me, picked to be at least 15th, at best 15th in the SEC, and they've had a pretty solid year. Alabama at B+. I would move Alabama to an A.
I would too.
Because to me, Florida State I can chalk up to weak one-iness. Right now in these last 5 games, they look like the hottest team in the SEC in terms of just being a buzzsaw. Missouri and Oklahoma also in B+. LSU would just B. Georgia B-, Texas D+, as well as Auburn. And then, of course, South Carolina at D-. So those are Seth Emerson's SEC grades. Do you agree? 803-404-6100. Hit us up. Firehouse Subs text line with AAA Heating and Air phone lines. But coming up next, it's the morning meeting. Our pal Nick Harvey joins us, and we'll also get a little bit of a history lesson. I think we're all old enough to remember this history lesson. South Carolina going to Norman and winning. Is there anything we learned from that game, though? Anything that can be applied to Saturday's game? We'll decide next. We're talking about getting a little bit of a history lesson here in the morning meeting. Well, here's a small history lesson here for my friends at Mid-State Roofing, because for nearly 30 years, that's my entire lifetime, Mid-State Roofing has been the proven leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. And quite frankly, that history, we talk about things we can learn from history, is the assurance that you need that Mid-State Roofing will give you the proper advice, service, underrated service here because of a lot of the things they do in terms of being able to call them after hours and the type of assistance that you can get. But most importantly, Mid-State Roofing has a history of giving you results to the very specific needs of your facility. And of course, it's in a manner both safe and pleasing to your operation, designing and installing bonded systems with that protective guarantee to keep things running dry and long into the future. Give them a call today, 803-356-1919. You can always hit them up online at midstateroofing.com.
Blythewood Road and Winsboro Road. That's still a work in progress there. Also, Highway 60 at Columbiana Drive, the traffic lights are currently malfunctioning. So just be extra cautious as you approach that intersection. Sunset Boulevard at I-26 and Van Boekelen Street at Garner's Ferry Road. Those are the list of accidents this morning. 77 today, lots of sunshine, but that overnight low, 48. So definitely going to be jacket weather in the morning. But it'll warm up, 75 for the high and 80 on Saturday with lots of sunshine. Great fair weather, great football weather. It's 62 right now.
It's time for a little bit of a history lesson and seeing if any of this history can be applied to the game on Saturday. But first, let's get this morning meeting started the right way.
Good morning. Good morning. Repeat after me. Today will be an awesome day.
Always is.
Let's go. Good morning, great today. Today will be an awesome day. Good morning, great today. Today will be an awesome day.
It will, because we're looking back on some fond history here. Just the first time that as conference opponents, South Carolina and Oklahoma met in Norman. It was Saturday, October 19th, 2024. We're old enough to remember that. South Carolina put this thing away before the game even started. Preston, you mentioned it in the last hour when we were kind of alluding to this game and how you knew you had to go into Norman. You had to hit them in the mouth early. And they did defensively. You knew where the mismatch was. Oklahoma's offensive line was injured, and they were bad. And you hit them in the mouth early. Michael Hawkins had to get benched for Jackson Arnold to re-enter the starting lineup, or re-enter the game. But it started off like this. You get an interception of Michael Hawkins in their very first play, essentially. And Nick Emenwari runs it all the inside, deep into Oklahoma territory. And then one or two plays later, Rocket Sanders scores a 3-yard touchdown run. Then Tonka Hemingway scoops up a fumble and runs it 36 yards for a touchdown. Then the very next possession, Nick Emenwari picks off Michael Hawkins again and runs it 65 yards back for a touchdown. So with 9:40 left in the first quarter, South Carolina led 21-0. Since then, since that point of the game, South Carolina outscored Oklahoma 14-9. So you can even say, well, take away that, and South Carolina still wins. Is there anything in that game, though, Preston Thorne, that we can find applicable for this game on Saturday? Of course, it's a new era of college football. Rosters change all the time. Oklahoma looks a lot different this year than they did last year. And on the defensive side of the ball, so does South Carolina.
Well, if we're doing the scouting, today's scout day for Oklahoma, traditionally in the Lou Holtz tradition, I'm trying to make sure that you are scared to death to play the other team. So I'll bring up
part of the cycle.
Yeah, part of the cycle. Tomorrow we'll get to why we're going to win, but today we're going to get to why we can lose.
I love how you fast track it now, just because of our show schedule.
The first day of scouting is why the team will beat you, why you will lose, and you got to get your attention. I'll say this, man. It was 21-0 after the end of the first quarter, and that Brent Venables team defense did not quit.
Locked up.
They locked in and essentially shut South Carolina's offense down for the rest of that game. And to me, that is something, if we're going to inverse it, that's something that our defense is going to have to make sure that regardless of what's going on the offense, whether they're getting TFLs, whether it's looking ugly, whether the punt team's getting called again, maybe it's another pick six, they're going to have to continue to play the game because, as we've discussed ad nauseum, John Mateer will give us opportunities to make plays. So regardless of what the offense is doing, the defense has to continue to play, and you can look at that Oklahoma performance from last year.
Our pal Nick Harvey from WIS is in the house. He's ITH right now. And Nick, when you look at last year's game, and obviously with the differences between 2024 and 2025 for both of these teams, is there anything that can be applied to that game for Saturday?
I mean, yeah, I think that, again, the defensive turnovers are going to have to play a major role. Like, I think this otherwise is a 1st to 17 wins type of game, right? Like, it's going to be a defensive battle, and it's going to come down to who makes more mistakes on offense. It's not going to be who gives up the explosive play on defense, in my opinion. I think there's going to be a couple explosives both ways. I mean, let's, for instance, look at South Carolina last week against LSU. That Matt Fuller touchdown, there's that one big explosive play. It did not affect the outcome of the game. You might get one or two of those on offense, but what can you do defensively to change the outcome of the game? That's what I think this comes down to, and South Carolina showed last year it's capable of doing it.
I think that's kind of the scary thing about this game, too, is that you might have to rely on getting those if you want to win this game. Not saying you can't. It's just historically defensive touchdowns and special team scores can be hard to rely upon to win ball games.
Well,
the opportunities will be there.
The thing that I locked in on earlier is that I don't know if special teams touchdowns are going to be on the board for us this week. Because of our previous histories, that means they're already emphasizing this, and then Oklahoma gave up a punt return last week. So they will be on their job on every single special teams. Beamer has a reputation, obviously. Then you gave up one to lose one last week. I don't know if there's going to be a lot of room for us to get tricky in the special teams game. Also, you remember last year, one of the biggest plays that came early in the game was in special teams. They tried to run a trick, tried to run the punt, and Knight basically snooped it out, made the play, turned it over. So that was another thing that they were trying to do. So I don't know if special teams could be a neutral this game, that would be fine with me.
That was one of my favorite plays of the entire season last year. Is Demetrius Knight's kind of like lined up on the edge, and he sees something. And I don't think it was ever revealed what it was he saw, but you saw him like kind of like move his head a little bit, and then he takes a couple steps to the outside, cheating over to that edge, and then not the edge, towards the sideline. The pass is made, and he's there in a snap, right? And it is one of the more beautifully like done plays that this team had last season. And of course, like that is just an incredibly smart football play. You're going to have a lot of that. And Oklahoma does like to get a little tricky on special teams, right? That's not something that they're scared of doing. And obviously South Carolina doesn't either because they tried to do it against LSU. But I don't know if there's really much I can even take from last year's game. And if you want to talk about Oklahoma's defense, they were good last year. A lot of these guys that are on the team this year, it's not like LSU where so many of the impact players like Patrick Payton, Jack Pyburn, Mansur Delane are transfers. A lot of these guys were on the team last year. And you still, in terms of running the ball, 74 yards on 41 attempts. Carolina did not run the ball well at all against Oklahoma, but found a way to win because the blueprint was forcing turnovers.
And I think it's also worth noting, like the availability report yesterday, I think it was 3 offensive linemen from Oklahoma were ruled out for this week. So, I mean, it makes you wonder how big of an impact that is for their run game, but at the same time, even beforehand, it wasn't anything stellar. Like, injuries or not, they haven't run the ball effectively throughout the season. So I think if anything, it creates maybe a little more confidence for the defensive line pass rushing, that maybe Dylan Stewart gets a couple extra free shots because of some miscommunications up front, or they start hugging him and maybe they get a couple extra flags because these guys aren't good at hiding it better than I guess. Yeah. I mean, granted, not many people are good at hiding and blatant hold,
right?
But it's evident that some people are somehow better than others.
Glad you mentioned the availability report because after last night for Oklahoma, already ruled out, Troy Everett, Jacob Sexton, Jake Taylor, those are 3 starting offensive linemen. Doubtful, wide receiver Keontez Lewis, tight end Cade McIntyre, offensive lineman Logan Howland, and questionable running back Javonte Barnes. Oklahoma's really banged up on the offensive line, and so is South Carolina because 3 are listed as doubtful. Nolan Hay and Kason Henry, who missed the LSU game, but now throw in Shed Surratt in that list as doubtful as well. Marquis Anderson and Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy listed as questionable, and Brandon Cisse, who left the game early against LSU, listed as probable. So that is at least a good sign on that injury front.
Yeah, and that just goes to the point I think the caller called in earlier and said it. Hey, man, this is week 8 of the SEC. Everybody's hurt.
Everybody.
So injuries the idea of injuries has to be, we can't use that as an excuse any further because everybody's hurt and nobody's going to get healthier as the season goes along. It's not how it works.
No, that is not in a contact sport. No, it is not. But coming up next, you've heard Nick Harvey in here. It's time for us to continue another week of the Early Game Underdog Challenge. And Preston had himself quite the week. Moves were made over the weekend. We'll tell you what happened and make our picks next.
Preston here for our friends at Absolute Glass, the premier glass company of the Midlands, offering auto, home, and business glass repair. If your glass is damaged, shattered, cracked, or broken, they can handle the job. Cracked windshield, no problem. They'll come out to your location and they'll replace it for you, usually for free, and they work directly with the insurance to take away the headache. That's right. They'll work directly with the insurance, and you don't have to worry about it. Just give it to the folks at Absolute Glass. Now, if you're at home and you're looking to increase the value of your home, you can do that with new windows and mirrors, and Absolute Glass will take care of that for you, too. Windows, mirrors, shower enclosures. We say it all the time. If you can see through it, Ray and Marianne at Absolute Glass can do it. So check them out online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com. That's online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com.
Traffic lights continue to malfunction. Highway 60 at Columbiana Drive. Few accidents to make you aware of or remind you of. Sunset Boulevard near Mineral Springs Road. Also, Sunset Boulevard at I-26 and Van Boakland Street at Garner's Ferry. Sunshine really throughout today, tomorrow, and Saturday. 77 will be our high today. That overnight low is going to be a little bit cooler than we've experienced so far this season. 48 for that overnight low, so going to be chilly in the morning. And tomorrow, again, 75, overnight low of 51, so it'll be a little bit cool. getting things started on Saturday morning as well before it warms up to 80. 62 currently on the early game.
There's no need to fear. Underdog is here.
Oh, you hear that? You know exactly what time it is. Arguably my favorite segment of the week. It's the Early Game Underdog Challenge. And before we get to the current standings, I got to give a shout out. It was a good week on the text line. Shout out to Jeff for picking Marshall plus 14.5 against Old Dominion and pulled off the most underrated shocker of the week. Clearly, Northwestern beating Penn State was the shocker at 21.5. But Marshall, with a first-year head coach, beating the Sun Belt frontrunner in Old Dominion, 14.5. Jeff is our winner from last week. Now, what happened with us? Started off pretty good for Preston. The Giants beating the Eagles. That was good for 7.5 points.
Yes, sir.
Cam Scatterby becoming America's meathead sweetheart overnight. And then he followed it up with UCLA plus 8.5 at Michigan State.
Yeah.
That's good for 16 points on the week. In Pudge, I trust, and in my trust gets rewarded because Bowling Green at home against Toledo wins. That's 10.5 points for me. Saints did me no favors. Thanks, Kellen Moore. You fourth down coward. I got 10.5 points. Team WIS nailed Indiana plus 7.5 against Oregon. And Jen gets 4.5 from her Bears thanks to a Jake Moody field goal at the buzzer.
He's my favorite player right now.
So as we stand right now, Team WIS still in the lead with 50.5 points. Preston sitting at 41. Jen sitting at 36.5. And I'm the caboose, just 1 point behind Jen at 35.5. So with that being said, it's time to make some picks. In the order this week, it will go me, Team WIS, Jen, and Preston. And then in the NFL, it will go Preston, Jen, Team WIS, and myself. So I'll start us off by going to the Big Ten. I love the Friday night games because things can get really weird. And I haven't gotten to say this phrase much on air, but it's one of my favorites in college football. Row the boat.
Okay.
Give me PJ Fleck in Minnesota plus 8.5 at home against Nebraska on Friday night.
That'd be juicy.
It's very juicy. It's number one on my board. So I was like, you know what? Out of all of these that I've written down, that's the one I feel the best about. So that being said, the floor is Team WIS and Nick Harvey.
There's some really compelling games this week with a lot of really interesting spreads. But I like this one in the SEC because I think it's a little disrespectful for Mississippi State to be favored to lose by 9.5 points in the Swamp. I get the home atmosphere. I get Florida beat Texas. Mississippi State's not a bad football team. A 9.5 point spread's kind of crazy to me.
Yep, I thought the same.
Against a what we call a lame duck coach.
Lame duck.
Yeah.
Because Billy Napier is on his way out.
I mean, this is according to reporting. This is not message board. This is like reporters have been on the ground in meetings with sources saying like, hey, man, this is done immediately.
And if it's public information, the players know too, and that will have an effect on the players. So Team WIS taking Mississippi State plus 9.5 at Florida. I had that on my list. I was thinking about it, but I wanted to row the boat.
I feel like I took that from Jen.
You did.
Sorry.
Actually, that was my first pick, so that's all right. It's all good. I get the heart emoji. I love that, or the heart.
The hand sign.
The hand sign.
Yeah.
Heart hands, yep.
All right.
Thanks, man.
So now Jen's got to go to option number 2.
Oh, gosh. You know, I'm kind of going back and forth. My adopted homer, I'm staying in South Carolina. I'm just kind of going back and forth. Give me Coastal. 10.5 over App State.
Ooh,
Saw
Coastal
that.
Carolina sticking inside the Palmetto State.
I don't know. App State's not fabulous. I mean, Coastal's
Flaws.
but
Coastal's going through some quarterback issues, though.
yeah, I know.
Ted Hudson kind of up and down, but I can't remember. I'm trying to think of the guy's name, but ran the ball like a maniac last week against UL Monroe. We were talking about that on Palmetto Sports Daily yesterday.
Okay.
Insane.
That could be the spark they needed. Sometimes you make that quarterback change and things happen.
So I don't know. We'll give it a shot. I could use the 10.5 points. So
Hey, they don't call it the Fun Belt for no reason. Coastal Carolina, 10.5 points at App State. So that leads us now to Preston Thorne.
I'm going big game hunting, and I'm developing a theory. My theory is if you fire a ridiculous head coach, the team bounces back. Give me the UAB Blazers over the Memphis Tigers. 22 points.
Woo.
Big one. I just feel like those players will be so proud to get rid of Trent Dilfer that they are going to go out there and perform.
See, the new coach bump is a real thing.
And yeah, it's the new coach bump, but also the old coach, because Trent Dilfer, not a fun dude to be around.
Was there a guy who was more, I don't know, like irrationally confident to take that job
I don't know. I don't think so.
and very look at me than Trent Dilfer?
You put irrational confidence with wildly underqualified?
Yes.
That's a terrible combination.
Performative. Remember that radio hit he did? Or he was like in studio somewhere, and I can't remember which station it was in Alabama because I don't think it was Jocks, but he was on with somebody, and he goes, "Yeah, come try to poach my players, because then I'll tell my friends at ESPN, and you'll get exposed."
Yeah,
buddy, nobody wants your players. You didn't recruit particularly well. No one was knocking on that door.
We're going big game hunting with this one. We'll see.
I love it.
Not sure how that's going to work out, but we're going to take a shot.
All right, so 22-pointer for UAB against Memphis. Now Preston Thorne will kick us off in the NFL.
Let's keep the fun train rolling. The meathead, sweetheart. Give me the Giants over the Broncos.
The Giants on the road.
Let's keep it rolling.
I'm so bought into Cam Scott.
We're having fun.
I think this game is that even if it's like a team on the road, because I'm a sucker for the home underdog, but if it's a team that's not going to be favored to lose frequently, get them while you can.
That's actually a good strategy.
And the Buccaneers aren't going to be favored to lose a lot of games this year. So when they're available, never a bad idea to take them.
Okay.
Buccaneers plus 5.5 in Detroit. That takes us to Team WIS.
There's a big prove-it game this Sunday. And the New Orleans Saints going to Chicago.
Early game
Caleb
ball.
Williams, Spencer Rattler.
Yeah.
It's going to be –
that is a
the
storyline.
storylines are running crazy
Yeah.
right now.
And the spread's very low.
I love the Saints plus 4.5. I think Spence has something to prove. I think like he had a great answer in a press conference this week. Somebody asked him about it, and he said it was a great opportunity because I got to go to South Carolina and develop. And I thought that was awesome for him to say.
Nice.
But I think that there's that little bug in the back of your head going, I'm going to prove it. I'm going to prove that I was better than you the whole time.
That's what makes juicy storyline.
I want him to be successful, just not this weekend. But,
Well, if it's any consolation, Jen, he's been successful and the team has lost frequently.
well,
So he can be
excellent
successful
point.
and they still
yeah,
lose.
two things can be
That's
happen
the
at the same
ball
time.
worlds.
Yep.
So the Jen Jensen dream scenario is actually the most likely scenario in this game. Oh,
Excellent
because
point.
it's not Spencer's fault. It's not. But I'm gonna round us out by taking the Bengals tonight. Thursday Night Football. Give me Joe Flacco at home, a 4.5-point home dog.
Thought about it.
Joe Flacco has beaten Mike Tomlin before. He's got good receivers, good weapons. That offensive line just holds up enough. I can see the Bengals doing it. Again, you can submit your picks, 803-404-6100 to the Firehouse Subs text line. I got Minnesota over Nebraska and the Bengals over the Steelers. Team WIS has Mississippi State over Florida and the Saints over the Bears. Jen has Coastal Carolina over App State and the Bucks over the Lions. And Preston has UAB over Memphis and the Giants at the Broncos. Time to put some folks on the grill next. I smell something cooking. And that is the smell of a couple of people being put on the grill. Now, last week we had James Franklin go from freezer to grill to charred in record time. But today, fellas, we'll start off with a little bit of a slower cooker. This is more like a crock pot. And it's Luke Fickell at Wisconsin. They got beat 37-0 at home to Iowa. Giving up 37 points to Iowa is like giving up 70 to anybody else.
At home.
At home. Iowa doesn't want to score.
No.
They don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Like, do I have to score this touchdown? Fine.
Do we have any sad footage? Do we have any sad jump around footage from Wisconsin? Like, just people just kind of
Can you
like.
imagine just.
This is like,
I'm sure that student section is well lubricated for each game, but I don't know if there is enough liquid encouragement to get somebody to jump around after watching that team play football. And it's been a few years, and I will admit when I'm wrong, because I remember when they hired Luke Fickell, that I was like, this is the best hire in the sport right now. So, like, somebody had to take the guy who took Cincinnati to a college football playoff. Here are his records at Wisconsin since then: 7-6. 5-7, and now they are 2-4. A once proud program that would see itself regularly in the Rose Bowl is now fighting to just play in the Holiday Bowl. It's disgusting.
Fighting strong. Yeah, and you know what? College football needs Wisconsin. It's one of these helmets. It's like, I like Wisconsin to be in the mix. Doesn't feel right when they're down like they are now.
Like CBS has their game of the week is Ohio State at Wisconsin. That used to be a really fun game every year. Mm-hmm. That's going to be a bloodbath.
Absolutely.
What's going to happen in that game? Should I get it? Like, that TV broadcast should be rated NC-17. Children should not be allowed to watch what's going to happen at Camp Randall Stadium tomorrow or Saturday.
I have this grill. I think he's already been on the grill once, but I'm going to throw him back on the grill because he wasn't done cooking yet, but I think it's officially done. Tua Tagovailoa, come on down. More specifically, Tua Tagovailoa in front of microphones at press conferences.
No.
Please stop. First, you threw yourself and your team under the bus last week. Mm-hmm. Then you came back yesterday and you said that you were apologizing. I want to read this specifically. His apology stated that he wanted to say that, let me make sure I get it because I don't want to misquote him. As the leader of this team, the Miami Dolphins, the comments that I said, I have made a mistake. One, he proclaims himself as the leader. Two, I'm not sure you're the leader of that team. That's first. Second, it wasn't right, but no matter what, they know my intent. But things can get misconstrued or however the media wants to portray it. How is the media portraying exactly what you said, sir?
You said it in front of a microphone, and God and all creation heard it.
We're not misconstruing this.
Maybe he needs to look up the word misconstrue.
I'm trying to find
dictionary.
the words right now. I don't know what to say to that.
He said the intent can be right sometimes, but when things get misconstrued or however the media wants to portray it, buddy, that was all you.
Mm-hmm.
You said the words, man. You said the words. I don't think the intent was right there. I think the intent was exactly how you said it.
Should they consider concussion protocol again after saying something like
You've
that?
had suspicions. You've had
suspicions.
I don't know.
Tua's cooked.
I don't know if you guys smell it, but there's something that I think has been left on the grill for far too long.
Okay.
And that is one Mark Stoops. It smells awful.
It's burnt.
I mean, it's bad. It's past charred. I don't even know what you. It's like whenever you
like
cook something so much that when you try to move it, it just falls apart.
Disintegrates.
It disintegrates right in front of you. I've
it
done
belongs
that.
to the grill now.
I've done that.
Yeah.
I've done that before, too.
Kentucky and Mark Stoops. I mean, the guy's going to get a payout, so he might be able to salvage some of the burnt crisps that are left. But
burnt ends can be good, but not in this case.
No,
True.
No, it's bad.
Yeah, to say that, Mark Stoops is cooked is an understatement. I would say the Kentucky Athletic Department cooked because they got to figure out a way, because, again, you cannot run this back. However, we have seen some schools in irresponsible spending. Penn State doing it pretty irresponsibly. And, yes, I know they get the money from boosters, but you know what? You're going to have to hire another coach, and if you want your coach to be better than Mark Stoops, you're going to have to pay them what Mark Stoops was getting, which was a lot of money. You're going to have to invest in a coach again, so you're going to have to keep asking and asking and asking. And whoever's going to be the next head coach of Kentucky is going to hear that because it's like, hey, the last guy that underperformed here, it got this much money. You're bringing me in to fix his mess. I'm going to need more. It's such a bad situation there at Kentucky right now that, charred is now considered an understatement for what's going on with Mark Stoops in Kentucky. That's who we put on the grill this week. But coming up next to kick off the early game, third and long hour, we're going to move over to the video studio, Studio 803, and we're going to discuss a couple of things that were said by the coordinators because they spoke yesterday in preparation to Oklahoma. What did they say? We'll discuss next. He's Preston Thorne. She's Jen Jensen. He's Nick Harvey. We are in Studio 803 for the early game, third and long hour. We got a whole lot to get into because today we are taking our first look at the Oklahoma Sooners. It's a big game for South Carolina, 3-3 in a game that we have to have. We talked about the importance a lot of this today already in terms of what this can mean for the rest of your season because of just how daunting the slate is ahead and how close you are to missing a bowl game. You got to steal some games. This is a game that maybe you can win in the teens, in the low 20s. It's a really important game, but the big story for this Oklahoma team, it's that defense, Preston Thorne. It's that defense. That defense is pretty good. We've given the numbers on how good their pass rush is, that they have 4 players with at least 10 pressures on the season. R. Mason Thomas has 4 sacks and has accounted for 17 pressures on his own this season. You gave up pressures as an offensive line on 65% of Lenore Sellers' dropbacks. The offensive line needs help. It needs help quickly. They need to step up quickly. You fired Lonnie Teasley the next day after the LSU game, hoping that bringing in Sean Elliott to be the offensive line coach will give this offensive line the shakeup it needs. But the biggest issue, I would say, because blocking is one thing, the penalties are another. You're going to have a hard enough time, y'all, playing against this Oklahoma defense and this Oklahoma pass rush. You're going to give up TFLs. There's going to be negative plays. But if you are handing them negative plays, you are in for a long, long afternoon.
Yeah, that's the thing that you definitely don't want to do with them, is that you don't want to have the opportunity for them to make those negative plays in the bubble, because we've seen they have not been able to perform on third and long. We got ourselves in that situation so many times against LSU. Third and 10s, third and 15s, third and 18s. I believe the average third down distance was
3rd and 10, I believe is what it was.
Well, they're not gonna do that. I read an article that said it was talking about, as a quarterback, how does it feel facing a regular defense? And they said it feels like a tornado.
Oh, and tornadoes are not fun.
And
Can't attest.
They said especially when it gets in the third and long, when you get that third and long, he starts bringing blitzes from all these exotic places. He's bringing guys, he's dropping people back, he's zone blitzing, he's all these types of things, which you don't want to give yourself those opportunities. So it's going to be extremely important for them to be good in the early downs. But we know that regular defense like to blitz.
They do. Nick, you watched that game on Saturday. You saw everything that happened as it pertains to South Carolina in committing 13 penalties, 9 of which were procedural, 7 of which were procedural penalties on offense. A lot of false starts, a lot of illegal snaps. As somebody who has played the position, the frustration of seeing that happen in a game of that magnitude, a game that was incredibly winnable that became unwinnable because of the penalties procedurally, what was kind of your main takeaway as to why most of that happened?
Well, I think the primary frustration for me was, 2 of those false starts were on your center. Like, that can't happen.
No.
You cannot be the guy snapping the ball and twitch before you snap the ball. Because you're taught as a center, your first step comes with the snap. Like, that is a routine, that's muscle memory. Like, that's a thing that you know you're going to do. So, and especially when you see one of them where there's a clear, like, that left hand flinched before the ball got snapped. Like, it's just, and I'm not blaming anybody, but it's like, where and how does that end up happening? I still haven't quite figured it out where some of these offensive line false starts came from. I think you're going to see, Shane said it earlier this week in his press conference, you're not going to promise that there's not going to be procedural penalties, but they might have a better number maybe this week. You're back at home, you got a new coach. And Preston, you might agree with me on this, but you now have an old school coaching approach. Like with Lonnie, and again, like I had a chance to work with him briefly while I was in college as a student assistant. He brings a different kind of style to his coaching approach. Like he's very calm in his delivery. He's intense, but he approaches it differently than, say, Sean Elliott does. Whereas, like, especially playing in Walterboro, South Carolina for football, you're playing with a bunch of dudes who played back in, like, the 70s, 80s, 90s, who played with the old school coaches in charge of them, and taught them hard-nosed football, and they're translating that to you. You've got Sean Elliott, who's been doing this for a long time, and he coaches old school. He's made himself bleed by headbutting players because he gets so juiced up before a game. Rick Henry put it best yesterday. It was an off-camera topic, but he said he's a great guy, but when he gets on the field, he's got that psychoticness about him. Like, he's just crazy, and you love that energy, though. Like, you hope that they feed off of it, and if nothing else, if you commit procedural penalties and you don't get over all the errors this week, play more physical. Punch somebody in the mouth, because that's what he's probably telling them to do. Find somebody and attack them.
Well, the key to that is also the upside of the Brent Venables defense is that, yes, they blitz, yes, they're talented, but also, they play harder than anybody else. Echoes of the echo of the blitz. They play hard. Their heart is harder and stronger than what you're going to be able to do. So they're going to need every minute of this week.
That's one thing, Shane mentioned in the press conference on Tuesday, was that even when you think that the play is protected, that you've gotten the protection, or that you get the ball past the line of scrimmage and you think you have an edge, they play so hard on defense. They never quit on plays, right? You know how early in the season when we were talking about Alabama losing at Florida State and Dan Orlovsky went back and charted all the loafs Alabama had, and he counted 21? Well, that number is 0 on Oklahoma. They don't quit on the ball. I mean, they are what South Carolina wanted to do when they had those 2 games where they missed 14 and 16 tackles, respectively, against Missouri and Vanderbilt, where you think you have somebody wrapped up and everybody kind of just relaxes. Oklahoma does not relax. They have no chill. There is no chill in that Oklahoma defense.
I can tell you this, as a former player, granted it was only high school, but we had a point in our season, I think it was my sophomore year, where our coaches started counting loafs during their film sessions the night before we'd come in for our Sunday meetings, and we had to pay for those loafs on practice to start the new week. And it was the worst thing in the world, where you get out to practice, they say get them chopping, and we're all in a big circle. They call somebody to the center, and he says, "My name's so-and-so." Oh, God. And I have 36 loaves. And everybody's like, "Dude, what are you doing?" Like, there's a blame game happens. But it gets people riled up, and it makes you realize, hey, I can't take a play off. Like, sometimes there has to be punishment for the lack of effort. And I'm not saying that that's a consistent thing that's happening with South Carolina, but I am saying if it's noticeable, then the accountability has to start rolling with that too.
Especially when it causes that much frustration for the team. Defensively, you played pretty well. You bent, but you didn't break in a lot of those drives against LSU. Garrett Nussmeier gave you some gifts, and you took advantage of them defensively to get the ball back. Offensively, you never took advantage of them. One of the many reasons why penalties were a key source of frustration against LSU in Baton Rouge on Saturday night. Mike Shula spoke yesterday, and he was asked about the frustration caused by some of those offensive penalties. This is going to be cut 1, Jen.
Probably more so than anything else has been our biggest negative on offense is we've been able to move the ball and then just so you have to you just got to keep coaching it and just keep, whether or not it's a pre-snap penalty or just any kind of negative play, you got to, and then in general as a play caller you got to try to figure out how you get back on track where you can get to third down manageable, or come up with a play that gets you out of that situation. And if it happens in field goal range too, then you're looking at those scenarios where you're okay. Yeah, you want to get the first down, but if you don't get the first down, then you want to at least try to get into field goal range. So yeah, unfortunately, all those situations aren't what you want to be in. So you just got to keep coaching, and whether or not they happen to be in the fringe area or in that field goal area or backed up, either way, you got to eliminate that and coach as hard as you can on correcting those things and then building on the good while you're doing it, because we are doing some good things. I would think any offense would probably be saying the same thing. You just got to stay out of those negative things in those long yard situations.
So yeah, of course you have to stay on long yard situations, but as I said, you don't have play calls for 3rd and 15. You can look at your sheet, you can draw them up. You don't have that. And yes, coach is right. You have to keep coaching. But we don't want to hear that anymore.
Right.
And I've been on both sides of the equation, man. It's like,
And it's not just like you don't have play calls for 3rd and 15. You don't have play calls for 3rd and 25 because we'll take Shane Beamer at his word on Tuesday this week when he mentioned, hey, it's Oklahoma's going to get some negative plays. They're going to create havoc plays. That defense is good enough. And I've harped on this specific possession so much this week because it perfectly encapsulated how bad of killers penalties are. And it's when you got to LSU's 26, your first time taking a snap inside LSU's 26, you turned a 1st and 10 into a 2nd and 29? Now you're back near midfield because you had a false start, because you had an intentional grounding caused by a lot of those penalties. You do not have the luxury to be able to shoot yourself in the foot in this game. You didn't in the last game, and it cost you. It will be the same way in this game, that if you compound negative plays forced by Oklahoma's defense, which will happen, and an excessive amount of pre-snap penalties, your chances of scoring more than 10 points are very slim. 10 might seem generous because then you are banking on defensive scores and home run plays. That is one of those things that if you thought it was frustrating on Saturday night in Baton Rouge against a defense that is better than LSU's, it is going to be a very hard viewing experience on Saturday if you can't fix that.
I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right. That simply put, like, I hope that maybe all of a sudden the offense has figured it out in this week. You made a change. You got some new energy there in the offensive line room. You know, at the end of the day, all you can ask for, I think, and it was actually in the YouTube comments, very good comment, something that we used to get told a lot. If you're going to make a mistake, make it at 100 miles an hour. Find somebody, hit somebody, and make that mistake. We'll look at it on film and say, hey, look, this is your assignment, but thank you for going at somebody and finding somebody to get in the way of, hit someone, bring the power to them, and find something to contribute to that play instead of missing a block and going, well, shucks, like that's too bad I missed him. And you give up on a play. I mean, I feel like that has happened. There's been certain plays where a guy either misses on a pass set or something like that, and then you just see him kind of like jog behind the guy as he's taking Lenoris to the ground. Like there has to be more effort from the offense.
Yeah, you never want to be the offensive lineman who's the first to be helping the quarterback up. Because typically means you're the first.
You don't want to be the offensive lineman who's looking back at the film camera on a play where Lenoris Sellers goes down, because when everybody else is, you're seeing the back of their jerseys and their names, and you're looking straight at the film camera after you realize what you've done and going, this is going to be real bad tomorrow. It's going to be real bad on Sunday.
It's not going to be a fun one to go back and watch later in the week. We'll get to more of some of Mike Shula's comments on the other side, including a recollection of the 4th and 4 play against LSU that almost eliminated South Carolina's chances of winning that game, because we got two different responses from offense coordinator Mike Shula and quarterback Lenoris Sellers. Preston Thorne has thoughts, and we'll get to those next here on the early game. See in my house, especially when you're kind of like me and my girlfriend. We like to watch TV in the living room and eat sometimes, and we're messy eaters, not gonna lie. Being fully transparent, and most of that is me. So my carpet will sometimes have stains, and that's okay, because I know
Coral Springs Road, there is an accident that is slowing down traffic flow. Sunshine, 77 today. The overnight low 48, as I mentioned, and meaning it's going to be a little bit cool tomorrow morning. Tomorrow's high, 75. Overnight low will be 51. So, again, Saturday morning when you're getting out there for tailgating and such, it's going to be a little bit on the chilly side, but it will warm up to 80 with sunny skies on Saturday. Great weather for the fair. Great football weather. 60 currently on the early game.
Fourth and 4, late in the game against LSU. It's a gotta-have-it first down. Lenore Sellers drops back to pass. He throws it to the right side near the sideline towards Vandrevis Jacobs, who is in one-on-one coverage with Mansur Delane, arguably the best defensive back in college football. He's certainly the best defensive back I've seen in college football this year. Delane does not allow Jacobs to get an inch of separation. He bats the ball away. Carolina turns the ball over on downs. LSU drives down the field and kicks a field goal under the 2-minute mark. It is 20-10 and essentially the nail in the coffin of South Carolina on Saturday. That play has been discussed frequently on these airwaves. Personally, not a big fan of the call. But this week, Lenore Sellers and Mike Shula, after some time to reflect and watch the play over again, had a chance to be able to explain it a little further. Sometimes it can be hard after the game. But when you go back and watch, you can maybe go in hindsight and be able to try to explain what happened. This yesterday was Mike Shula, and this will be cut 6. Not cut 6. This will be cut 2. Recalling that 4th and 4 against LSU.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into specifics on that. We have plays where we think that are going to be good plays in that situation, and we call them, and hopefully we can, go make a play. They have good players too. So unfortunately, we came up short there.
So that's Mike Shula's explanation. Lenora Sellers asked the same thing during player availability, which was on Tuesday, the same day that Shane Beamer spoke. Here's Lenora Sellers' recollection of the play.
And more guys came. And then the 4th and 4, we knew it was going to be man coverage across the board. I mean, we just thought, our guy versus their guy, really, competitive plays was a big thing last week. So it's kind of hey, it's man coverage across the board. So take the one-on-one.
That was Lenora's explanation on the play. So, Preston, you hear those two. Does this change anything about your perspective of that play?
I don't agree with the call. But that being said, it does, when I hear Lenore explain what they were thinking behind the call, I appreciate the explanation. I did not really appreciate the idea of the offensive coordinator saying he doesn't want to get into specifics of that, because why else are you up here talking?
Yeah, right.
That's why you're up here in a press conference, is to sort of explain your thought process and to get us into it. Now, again, we don't have to agree with it, but I do appreciate, at least from Lenore, the transparency of saying, well, this is what we were thinking. We were trying to get competitive plays. We were going to make a play. Our guy didn't make a play. Their guys did. We'll move forward. That to me is fine with me. I don't like the idea of, we're not going to get into specifics of it, because it's not. We're not hiding state secrets, man.
You know what I'm saying? Something that has already happened.
It's already happened. So I would like more of an explanation from the coordinator as opposed to the player.
Well, I was just going to piggyback off of that, too. I don't think it should come to the quarterback to have to explain. Yes, you want to hear his thought process, and I respect that he was, Lenore's was very open to say, well, I wanted to take the one-on-one. We wanted to take the one-on-one. But, if anything else, if you're Mike Shula, I think that's when because he's already said this. He said it Tuesday, and then you come a day later and say we're not going to get into the specifics. All you got to say is, yeah, we wanted the one-on-one. I echo the sentiment that he had. This is why we called the play. We expected that if he could get off that route quick enough, he might have just enough room to pick up the first down and maybe even turn up field, depending on the separation he has. But instead, you turn a blind eye and don't address arguably maybe the biggest play of the game, because at that point it's only a one-possession game. Like, you're in an opportunity to go downfield and tie it. You make a decision on 4th down with a route near the boundary on a curl against one of the best corners in the nation, mind you, and you don't get rewarded for it. But again, like, I don't think that it was critical of somebody to ask. Like, I don't think there was criticism behind the question. But that's your job, is to address what you did wrong.
Yeah, it's sort of like showing your work on a math
Right,
problem, right? It's like showing your work on a math problem. Like, hey, let me see how you got to that answer that you got to. I don't even necessarily have to agree with the answer, but it may be somewhere along the line I can say, okay, I see what you was thinking. And I don't agree with it. I might have thought something else, but at least I can know that there was a process. When you just shut it down and you say, I don't want to get into specifics of that, well, guess what? I'm left to my imagination. And now if I was a fan who already did not have a favorable opinion of you, that's not going to bode you very well.
I was a notorious non-work shower. I have
Same.
to admit that.
Vibes.
Like, and many
That's how I
times
got my answer.
Many
Vibes.
times I would turn in a paper and my teacher would be like, "Okay, how did you get it? I need to see the proof." And I'm like, "No,
No. Sorry,
it's
it's a no
right
for me, dog.
It's right. You just checked it. You don't need to see the proof. I did it. That's all you need to know." Like,
and you know what the key part of that story is? You had the problem. You had the question right.
Yeah.
Mike Schuler got the question wrong.
That's fair.
I need to see why you got it wrong, so maybe we can help you out, or tell me why maybe you didn't carry the one, sir, or whatever the case was. I need to know why you got it. If you get it right and you say, hey, man, listen, Google me. If you want to do a Signetti.
Right, you pull the Kurt Signetti.
Hey, brother, I can't say because you're getting it right a lot. Or like Brent Venables has been said, they asked him, why does he call it deep? He said, because I'm good at it.
One of my favorite responses to anything this year.
You know what?
Good for him.
I have nothing to say. I have no response for that.
I got
You have a
respect.
track record.
I got respect for that, because that's pure confidence, and that's confidence that has backup. Versus what is it, Dilfer, the UAB head coach we were talking about earlier?
Oh, no, yeah,
Like,
no
there's
track record of coaching.
There's
to
false
back that up.
confidence, and then there's Brent Venables.
Brent Venables doesn't need to show his work anymore. Mike Schuler, you still need to show us your work.
But like, here's the thing. Like, what I really appreciate about Lenoris is that you mentioned it. He really, that's the thing about him. He will kind of show his work a lot on that. Even if I disagree with throwing it on the side of the field where that guy is guarding Van Drevis Jacobs, I can appreciate the confidence in Van Drevis Jacobs. I like that you have the confidence in your receivers, and I can disagree with maybe throwing it to that side of the field, but I do like that you gave a really thorough explanation as to what was going down, why it happened, and why the decision was made. I think you can live with that a little easier than just not getting into it.
Yeah, and that's all you would want to hear is just what was the thought process behind that? How did you come to that play? If we are in a situation like that again, what might be your next thought process? Because that's all we're trying to do is, at least for me personally, I'm not speaking for everybody, at least I'm still trying to figure out and get into the mind of what Mike Schuler is attempting to do when he attempts to do things.
Yeah, because I think a lot of us didn't like the play when it happened. I know I didn't. I was one of those, like, I'd love to know what, the rationale is, because there's some times where I don't like a play call, but I hear the explanation. I'm like, okay, I get it. I understand. I see what you're trying to do, even though I didn't like it at the, in the moment. But again, that part requires an explanation.
And I'm happy to agree to disagree if I can get your side of the story. I think that's like going back on it. I know maybe it's beating a dead horse at this point. We've said it a couple times, but seriously, like, fine. Tell me what your thought process was, and I'll tell you why I disagree, and then we both shake hands and walk away from it. That's all I think people want, is the explanation. And, okay, all right, I'm not happy about it. I disagree with the decision, but thank you for giving me the clarity of what your head saw versus what I saw. Like, it's very simple, in my opinion, and instead of shrugging it off and not getting into the specifics.
It's time to pick some more winners. Now, we do pick our winners for the show at the end of the show, in the last segment. But we will pick winners for this upcoming playoff race. Our man Josh Harris joins us next because it's the Corley Pool Solutions Checkered Flag Challenge here on the early game.
Hey, Columbia, looking for power equipment? Well, the best place to get your equipment is Cato's Power Equipment, and they've been family owned and serving the Midlands since 1983. That's over 40 years. And third generation owner Ben Cato provides top notch service, great deals, and the mom and pop values that you love. Ben is determined to raise the standards of sales, service, and retail. At Cato's, they are proud to offer a wide selection of new and pre-owned mowers, tractors, and more. So if you're ready to invest in something new, the friendly team is there to make the process easy, help you choose the right equipment, find financing options, and keep your gear running strong with expert service and parts. Whether you're a weekend warrior or a seasoned landscaping pro, Cato's has got you covered. So swing by Cato's Power Equipment today or call them at 803-254-3711. That's Cato's Power Equipment at 803-254-3711.
Harbison Boulevard at I-26, an accident there. Also I-20 westbound at I-77. I-26 eastbound at Lake Murray Boulevard. I-77 northbound at Garner's Ferry. And Sunset Boulevard near Mineral Springs, another area of a slowdown due to an earlier accident. Lots of sunshine today, 77 for the high, overnight low of 48. Going to be chilly tomorrow and Saturday morning. Tomorrow's high, 75, 80 on Saturday, 60 currently on the early game.
It's time to go racing. And I need somebody to go racing. Good Lord. We did pretty well in the Corley Pool Solutions Checkered Flag Challenge this week. And by we, I mean everyone not named Team Billijah.
Yeah, might have been a little bit tough. But you know what? Again, Blaney just had some bad luck. We welcome Josh Harris from Darlington Raceway before I go too crazy. But yeah, poor Blaney, I felt bad for him. Just a bad string of luck. And going into we're in the second race within this round. And yeah, now the points get a little bit interesting. What are your thoughts on what happened this past weekend, Mr. Josh?
Yeah, it was a great race. I thought Las Vegas, was great. Kyle Larson led the most laps first time. I think he's led over 100 laps in a race and didn't take home a victory. But I thought our playoff drivers for the most part were strong in that race throughout. Logano didn't quite have the speed that he's had in the past, and was able to get up there with some late race pit strategy. Obviously, kind of a crazy sequence there with William Byron running into the back of Ty Dillon when he was pitting. One, to hurt his chances, and then two, to bring out that caution. And then, Denny Hamlin showed why he's probably driving maybe the best he's ever driven in his career. And I think he's really determined to try to get this championship, coming back and taking that win. And now he's set himself up to give himself about 2.5 weeks to get ready for Phoenix.
Yep, and there we had learned that he had done a lot of sim time, like 7.5 hours, preparing for Vegas. So he definitely wanted that win. Got him his 60th win, and makes the next 2 weeks a little bit easier for Denny and his team. They can pretty much focus now on Phoenix. But as far as the standings at this point, you have Denny, and then you have Kyle Larson. Third is Christopher Bell and Chase Briscoe in fourth. So JGR just completely dominating right now in this round of 8. What are you thinking that we're going to see? I know Talladega, it's a tough race to have in the middle of this round because you just don't know and anything goes.
Yeah, this is the first time we've had Talladega this deep into the playoffs in the round of 8. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be interesting. I'm really, you think about a guy like Chase Briscoe who came into the race at Las Vegas. I think he was like 14 points below the cut line. Now he's 15 above. So he really improved his chances. Joe Gibbs Racing, much like they got off into the hot start in the first round of the playoffs by sweeping those 3 races, they've continued that. So I'm curious. It'll be a wild card race. I look for the Chevrolets to run well. The Fords have run well. The only thing that concerns me with Toyota is just the lack of depth in their organization as a whole when you think about the total number of teams to get together and try to run as manufacturers as they sometimes do. But I think, and not to tip my hand on picks at this point, but I think, Kyle Larson has traditionally struggled to get good finishes at the super speedways, but he's done much better this year. They've had speed. They had speed at Daytona back in August. And so I'm curious to see if maybe he can kind of get that monkey off his back, so to speak, and get a super speedway win.
Yeah, he definitely. It is such a tough place to really be able to predict what's going to happen because a lot of times your fate is not in your own hands for sure. What are your thoughts, just real quick? I know Steve O'Donnell had spoken this week with regards to some of the horsepower and how they're looking to boost it for tracks that are under 1.5 miles. So they're hoping to boost to 750 horsepower. What are your thoughts on that? I know everybody's been clamoring for that. I think that would make Martinsville a better race if they had more power. Obviously, none of this would go into effect until next year, but just what are your quick thoughts on a potential horsepower change?
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I think, it's a step in the right direction. A lot of the industry, whether it's teams, drivers, have been asking to try and help some of the shorter racetracks with higher horsepower. So I don't think this is the end goal for anyone, but it's what they feel comfortable with. It'll give them some good data. And even, with Darlington not quite being a full 1.5 miles, that change will impact our races next year. So a little more horsepower under the hood makes it a little more challenging to get around the Lady in Black. So I'm looking forward to it. I don't think we're going to see like significant changes in the racing, but I do think it will improve along with the strides that Goodyear has made in the tires this year as well.
And I do like the fact that it seems like Steve, being fairly new in the position, is actually listening a little bit more and maybe trying to take things back a little bit, a little more old school, not trying to appeal to as many different factions. Like, let's get back to just kind of the good old-fashioned what NASCAR is. So I kind of like some of that direction. So, yeah, we go into Talladega this weekend. You know, Denny got his 60th win. I think if there's a year that he's going to get the championship, it just seems like things are being set up well for him. I know once we get to Phoenix, you've got Penske is usually so dialed in Phoenix, but right now you have Logano and Blaney sitting at -24 and -31, so they're kind of almost in must-win situations. So Talladega is going to be important for them, as is Martinsville as well.
Yeah, I think the Penske drivers, I know that was a big concern for a lot of the teams, with how well they've run at Phoenix and kind of those mile tracks as a whole. And, to have their two contenders both being pretty far out below the cut line, it would be a lot, I think, to get in on points, unless maybe you get a surprise winner that's not a current playoff driver, maybe here at Talladega, to open up 2 spots for points going into Phoenix. So I think those drivers have a lot to work on, but they're going to tracks where they've both had success in the past, so I don't think you can count them out.
Yep, absolutely. So we're getting ready to make our picks, and I guess at this point we have Elijah, who is in with gonna get to pick first because he's sitting at 98 currently. I'm at 104. Josh at 110, Preston 111, and Reggie just off the charts at 123. So let's go ahead and get our picks made here. Elijah, who are you thinking is going to win at Talladega?
Ryan Blaney finished 38th in the last race, and I'm at the point now where I think my process was correct. The result was just wrong, so I'm going to stick to the process. He's won at Talladega 3 times. I haven't got to pick him off in this year. I'm going to do it again. I'm sticking with my guns. There's no way this can happen 2 times in a row. There's no way. And if there is, then I'm the problem, and I will stop picking it.
Okay. Outstanding. Blaney it is.
Blaney it is.
Blaney it is. All right, so that pick then goes to me. I'm gonna ride the train that hopefully I didn't just steal it from Josh, but I'm gonna go Kyle Larson.
Ooh.
I don't know. Josh, who are you thinking?
Well, I'm going to go with a Hendrick driver, but I'm going to go with a slightly different direction this weekend. I think he bounces back from an unfortunate situation at Las Vegas. He's the Daytona 500 winner. I think he's going to win the last one of the year on the super speedways. I'm going to go with William Byron.
Yep, he was one of my top 2 for sure. And I would love to see that for him. So, Preston, who are you looking at?
I am going to go with somebody who is desperate, somebody who needs this. Give me Joey Logano.
I just knew it. All right. Good pick. And then that would leave Reggie with Chase Elliott. So, yeah, winding down the series, and it's been an exciting season so far, and I'm really anxious to see kind of how everything rounds out here in these final few races. Josh, we always appreciate your help in joining us and making us educating us a little bit more in all things NASCAR. So we look forward to talking to you next week.
All right, season's winding down. It's coming down to us. See if somebody can catch old Reggie in the point stand.
That would be amazing because, boy, we're just almost going to have to give him minus points or something, because we need to rein him in a little bit because his reign literally has been insane. Absolutely. All right, thanks so much, Josh. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, thank you.
Good stuff from Josh Harris. He's a winner. Hopefully we picked some winners in the race on Sunday. We'll give our winners for today's show coming up next. and we will give you some winners for today's show. There are plenty of winners we have for today's show, and I want to start off by giving my winner to YOLO Ball, because the quarterback that's coming to Williams-Brice Stadium on Saturday, number 1 in the Elijah Campbell YOLO Ball rankings for quarterbacks, because John Mateer is fun to watch, but he throws a lot of picks. It is truly a magic 8-ball scenario when the ball leaves his hand as to whether or not it gets picked or he makes an incredible throw. He's also the only quarterback that I've ever seen throw the ball like Super Mario would throw a football, where he's jumping off 2 feet and throwing the ball across the field. Every time he throws the ball, I hear yippee every single time. Wahoo! Yeah, like that's what I hear when I see John Mateer throw the ball, especially when it's into harm's way. Again, a quarterback who has had more turnover-worthy plays than big-time throws, but has also made plenty of big-time throws. If you are a fan of a quarterback who likes to go out there and YOLO ball it, this is your guy. So YOLO ball. Mama, an interception. Oh, no. There was a safety.
I'm going to give my winner to blitzes because, boy, Brent Venables loves to blitz. You gave me a number that I'm going to have to go fact check because I believe this may be incorrect. Are you telling me that Brent Venables blitzed 65% of his snaps against the University of Michigan?
That would be correct.
That is astounding. And it obviously makes sense because in previous games he blitzed 54% of the time and 50% of the time. So he's one of the few defensive coaches that came to the press conference and said, we're going to be aggressive, we're going to blitz him, we're going to put a lot of pressure on him, and he meant it, he means it. So blitzing, that's my winner.
I'm going to go a little bit more to the Midwest here as well. Oklahoma State in what was deemed the shirtless section, something that developed into a national phenomenon in a matter of minutes because of a bet a guy made with his sister.
Nice.
He goes to the student section, which was empty, not a great game, takes off his shirt, just starts waving it around, and suddenly guys start becoming dudes, and everybody migrates to the student section, and you just see this like 3 sections full of guys, shirts off, just waving their shirts around. Like, they got nothing to lose. They're not there to support anything except for apparently now each other. Like, that was one of the best things I've seen out of a team that has no hope for the rest of the year, just having a good time.
A beyond cooked program.
100%.
But they're having fun, at least. That's sure. Honestly, that's what college football's about, right? Even if your team's bad, having fun at these games and getting to jump around, take your shirt off and wave it around and be a maniac for a little bit.
They don't let me do that in the press box, though.
Have you tried?
All right, we'll see. We'll see what happens. You can't cheer.
Then maybe there are other forms of expressing yourself up there in the press box.
The question is, this weekend, how many other schools do we see that happen to? Like, did it start a movement? Is it going to happen again? Is it going to be another school? I'm excited about it, to be honest with you. Like, it's something funny to watch for.
I did see it a little bit in the South Carolina State game when we had that long weather delay. People staying outside. Guys were being dudes and removing shirts and going crazy. See, you're only in college once for some of us. And sometimes it's the best 6 years of your life. But you got to take advantage of the best maybe 6 years of your life.
The get-back coach.
Oh.
Very important person on the Brent Venables staffs. You must have an extremely strong and reliable get-back coach because Brent Venables definitely gets into that pose where he's looking and he's surveying the field. And he does things that maybe he was supposed to grow out of it as a head coach now, but he's still doing it. So the get-back coach, he is a winner. Any get-back coach on the Brent Venables staff is a winner.
I call that the Frank Campbell Jr. Close game stance, which I have since adopted. Like, you pick up a lot of stuff from your parents. And my dad, like growing up, it's a Tennessee Vols game, and we're in like the last 3 minutes of the game, and it's a one-possession game. He will stand up, hands on knees. He's not like 5 feet away from the TV. That guy's eyes are definitely damaged because he's watching it just like this, and like the tension is palpable, and he watches like this. Anytime, like if I'm watching a Saints game on TV and buddy, it's in the fourth quarter and it's like a one-possession game, I find myself standing up and I'm doing the exact same thing, and halfway through it, I'm like, oh my God, I've turned into my father. What have I done? I have turned into my dad.
One of my favorite people to see in that stance comes from the short stint as a student coaching assistant, Greg Adkins. Greg Adkins is a fun person to watch at practice and on film. He's a great person, even better to watch on film. Just an absolute machine, man. That guy's incredible. One more really quick. The South Carolina State Fair. Gotta be a winner. They're rolling strong. I hope the Southern Hospitality somehow finds John Mateer and they give him fried cookie dough, a funnel cake, turkey leg. Find stuff to get him and just make him feel like he got Mario eats the mushrooms.
Yes.
And
Yes.
somehow make this guy feel like he's powered up, but he's just really bloated and tired and he can't really jump.
Turn the YOLO ball to 11.
Turn it up.
Turn it up. I'm telling you, that was out of all the Oklahoma I've watched this year, that's the one thing I noticed. You want to talk about a quarterback that's fun because of just how much danger he puts the ball into, but also makes spectacular plays and just looks funny sometimes throwing the football. John Mateer. Wahoo! That's your right. Wahoo! Yeah, every time. Just go back and watch and count the plays where you hear that when he throws the football. That's a winner. YOLO ball, always a winner. Tyler Head and Jack Veltri, they're winners, and they're next.
Preston, if our friends at Integrated Media, listen, we've been trying to tell you all that you need to get your outdoor setup ready. And now the weather is there for you. The sports are playing everywhere. There's baseball, there's basketball, soon to be football, soon to be basketball. Everything is happening now. And the folks from Integrated Media can help you get set up. What can you get set up? Samsung Terrace Water Pro TVs, outdoor speakers for TV and music, Wi-Fi that works indoors and outdoors. So you can have all your devices going. I didn't even mention hockey. All of these things are happening right now. Why wouldn't you have